Dear listeners, today in the new episode of StoryTime, I want to share something that has been weighing on me heavily. It's not just about work, and it's not just about family. It's about boundaries, about being respected, and about what happens when the two worlds collide. Let me start from the beginning. Childhood and family context. I grew up in the shadow of my father's business. My dad is a licensed electrician, and he's been running his company for over 30 years. He started it from scratch. I can still remember those early days when he'd come home smelling like dust and metal, exhausted from crawling through attics and under floors. There were times when money was tight, when the phone didn't ring for weeks, and I could hear him late at night at the kitchen table muttering numbers to himself, trying to figure out how to make ends meet. And yet, through sheer grit, he turned that small operation into a successful business. His trucks became a familiar sight in town, his reputation grew, and eventually he was employing other electricians, building something that became more than just a job. It became his legacy. For me, that business was almost like a sibling. It took up so much of Dad's time and attention that I had to learn to share him with it. And in a way, I guess that's how I ended up working there as an adult. I became the company's accountant. I don't deal with the wiring or the tools, but I keep the books balanced, the taxes filed, the payroll going. If Dad built the skeleton and muscles of the company, I became the heartbeat that keeps it running. Now my sister took a different path. She works for the city. Her husband, my brother-in-law, works for my dad too, but out in the field. So, in one way or another, the business really does tie us all together, and my dad loves to call it a family business. But listeners, hear the truth. Sometimes when people say family business, what they really mean is the rules don't apply the same way here. Boundaries blur. Favors are expected. And that's where my story begins. The first drop-off. School had just started in our county. It was the second week, and everything was running smoothly. I was at my desk, knee-deep in spreadsheets, when my office door opened. In walked my brother-in-law with my niece by his side. He smiled, casual as ever, and said, "Hey, could you watch her just for the afternoon? I've got something to finish up." And I thought, well, of course. She's my niece. I love her. It's one afternoon, no big deal. I told him yes. But here's the thing. It didn't stop at one afternoon. The next day, he showed up again. Same time, same routine. Dropped her off, waved goodbye, headed back to work. No long explanation this time, just an assumption. By the third day, I felt this little knot forming in my stomach. By Thursday, I started to realize this wasn't temporary. And by Friday, my suspicion was confirmed. He walked in, my niece at his side, and in the most casual tone said, "So, is it okay if she just comes here every day after school? Like, for the rest of the year?" I remember sitting there in shock. The whole year, my brain scrambled. Did he really just volunteer me without asking? My choice to be child-free. Now let me pause here to explain something. I am childless by choice, always have been. It's not that I dislike kids. I love my niece, she's a wonderful kid. But I've never wanted to be a parent myself. That was my decision, my path. And part of that decision is not having to spend every weekday afternoon supervising homework, preparing snacks, and juggling a child's needs while I'm supposed to be working. That's not the life I chose. My office is not designed for childcare. I have sensitive files, important documents, deadlines. I'm responsible for the financial side of a company that employs several people. And suddenly I'm being asked to turn it into a daycare. Here's the kicker, though. Our school district already offers after-school care. It costs $25 a week. That's it. $25 for 5 afternoons of professional childcare. So why, I asked myself, was I suddenly being asked to shoulder this huge responsibility for free? Saying no. By Friday afternoon, I finally mustered up the courage to say no. I looked at my brother-in-law and told him, as calmly as I could, "Look, I can help once in a while, but I don't want to be her full-time after-school caregiver. I can't do this every day." And listeners, his reaction shocked me. He wasn't just disappointed. He was angry. He left my office, marched straight to my father and said, "If she won't watch her, then I'll need afternoons off work." In other words, he turned it into a crisis. He made it sound like I was the problem, like I was being unreasonable, like my saying no was creating a burden on everyone else. And my dad just shrugged. He didn't step in to say, "This isn't fair. My daughter has her own job." He stayed quiet. He avoided conflict. And that silence hurt more than anything. The internal battle. Because here, where my heart split in two. On one hand, I felt guilty. I thought about my niece and worried she'd think I didn't want her around. I thought about my sister, my dad, the business, and this voice in my head whispered, "Family helps family. Maybe you should just do it. Maybe you're overthinking." But on the other hand, I felt resentful, because my time matters, my boundaries matter, and the assumption that because I don't have children, I automatically have time to spare, that stung. It made me feel invisible, like my choice to be child-free made me less important, less busy, less entitled to my own life. And I realized something. If I said yes now, even reluctantly, it wouldn't end with this school year. It would become the new normal. Next year, they'd expect the same thing. And the year after that. And before long, my identity as the company accountant would fade into the free babysitter. Family and boundaries. This whole experience has forced me to think about what family really means. Because yes, family helps family. That's true. But family should also respect each other. Family should value boundaries. And I can't shake the feeling that in this case, family is being used as a weapon, a guilt trip, a way to take advantage. My dad built his business on hard work and discipline. He taught me the value of pulling my own weight. But here I am, feeling like that same business is being used as an excuse for me to shoulder a responsibility that isn't mine. Where I am now. So here I am, listeners, stuck between guilt and resentment, torn between being the good sister who sacrifices her own comfort for the sake of family, or being the one who stands her ground and risks causing a rift. And every time I think about it, I circle back to the same question. Do I suck it up and accept this role I never asked for? Or do I hold firm, protect my boundaries, and risk being labeled selfish? Because the truth is, either choice will cost me something. Closing reflection and question. So that's my story. And now I want to ask you, my listeners, what would you do if you were in my shoes? Would you stand your ground, even if it made waves in your family? Or would you sacrifice your boundaries for the sake of keeping the peace? Let me know in the comment section. I really want to hear your thoughts.